was more than I was hoping to spend, but I think it's a great value for, you know, used cars right now. I'm happy with it.
Awesome. Yeah. Love a good Jetta. Crashed a good Jetta. And we are live on the Fantasy Bible, I believe.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes, we
Love a
are.
good Jetta.
Oops.
Crashed a good Jetta.
Yep. Definitely live as I'm getting my own feedback there. All right. Welcome to the Sunday Mass, the Fantasy Bible's pre-game live show where we take your questions. We help you set your lineups. We kind of just get hyped for the game, series of games today. And Dane, I think we've been doing pretty good so far. Like, I know week one, I feel like we made some maybe incorrect lineup decisions, but I think most of the advice we gave last week ended up helping people out in their lineups.
I think so. We at least didn't sink any ships, which is, the goal of what we do. We don't want to make you hate us, but yeah, I think we're on the right track here going into a exciting week 3, a lot of away favorites this week. So a lot of interesting games that are going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to live up to last week, which was maybe one of the best weekends of football I've experienced since the tail end of last year, because last year was incredible, but it was, I mean, just watching Joe Flacco take down the Cleveland Browns was impressive. But because of a lot of uncertainty in the air, a little, sicknesses for some players, just a lot of situations running rampant. I think this is probably the week where we have the most sort of lineup questions. At least I know that I have a lot to pose to you. How are you feeling about your lineups today?
Mostly good. Injury bug hasn't bit me quite yet. Biggest decision for me, I guess I'll just start off with it. Let's get in it. Full PPR league, David Montgomery or Curtis Samuel. Like, I had to start 2 of these guys: David Montgomery, Curtis Samuel, or Miles Sanders. Full PPR. If I go by projections, it's Miles Sanders and David Montgomery. But I think Curtis Samuel probably has a higher ceiling than those guys, but tough matchup against the Eagles. Need to hear your thoughts.
I'm rolling out Curtis Samuel. I think in a league where I don't have quite as strong of options as you, alternative options, but to me, it's a league where I went against Nick Chubb on Thursday night, so I'm already down a significant portion of points, and I need to hit that ceiling. And here's what I'll say: is last week, obviously, the Philadelphia pass defense put on a show, but it was against. They had to shut down the Justin Jefferson, and then the other weapons were an aging Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne or Jalen Reagor or whoever the fourth or third receiver on the Vikings is. This week, they have to shut down 3 legitimate weapons in Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, who is always somehow tearing up that Eagles secondary. No matter who's back there, Scary Terry often gets advantage of them. And then Curtis Samuel. So I think I don't think I would be like scared of the Philly pass defense going into this. And then just the scripted work that Curtis Samuel gets, a couple rushes a game, seems to, like, I bet on him to have over. For some reason, he was set at like 3.5 targets last week, and I think he ended up with 9. 9 targets after having 11 the previous week. Like, he seems to be a consistent part of this offense. He's currently the wide receiver 15 or 11 in full PPR. So to me, you just got to roll that out in a tough divisional matchup. Commanders are at home. I have to decide between Josh Jacobs, who is going to be playing against Tennessee, very juicy matchup, but didn't practice all week with an illness, traveled to Tennessee late. And then I have AJ Dillon going against the stout Tampa Bay defense. Dameon Pierce, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to start. I'm thinking this is Dameon Pierce breakout week, or at least I don't want that to happen on my bench. And then Curtis Samuel. So who are you sitting of AJ Dillon, Curtis Samuel, and Josh Jacobs?
Honestly, it's between AJ Dillon and Josh Jacobs. The injury, not flying with the team, the question marks all up until game day is a bit concerning. But if he's healthy and active, they're going to use him. You just only worry that he might come out with an injury in the first quarter that could really burn you. AJ Dillon, though, has a very tough matchup against the stout Bucks defense. I mean, they're really dominating through 2 weeks. The Packers will need AJ Dillon to be a part of that offense if they want to have a good game. Over under not very high. I think it's like a 41.5, kind of
It's
low.
really low, but I think that may be one of the easiest
Overs
overs to hit. This
should
like
be slammed the over.
I get it because it's, these two teams that Green Bay struggling. They're both struggling a little bit on offense, and they both have, especially in Tampa Bay's uh, area, like strong defenses. But I don't know. Sometimes these star quarterback matchups just have a way of getting out of hand, and all of a sudden Scotty Miller has 2 touchdowns, and things
Rashad
like
Perriman and
exactly, yeah.
Alan Lazard week. So I don't know. I guess to answer your question, it's between AJ Dillon and Josh Jacobs. If the injury doesn't concern you, it's Josh Jacobs. If it does, it's AJ Dillon.
So the thing is with Josh Jacobs, it's not an injury; it's an illness.
Oh, it was an illness.
It was an illness, which almost concerns me. I don't know whether that should concern me more or less, because it's a situation where, like, yeah, his body is physically fine, but he could be like, winded after one drive and dehydrated and, things like that. Like, we don't know what the illness was. We don't know if it was like a stomach bug or like a bad flu cold type situation. He's active. He's been playing pretty well from my point of view. I know he hasn't been putting up the points, but he's been getting the opportunities and look good when he's doing it.
Massive workload.
Yeah. Great matchup too against that Tennessee defense.
I think it's Josh Jacobs. They're just going to stick him with an IV, get him some pre-workout, and he's going to be on the road to a lot of touches again. I think you're going to have to go Josh Jacobs there. AJ Dillon has a much higher chance of having a bad week.
I could see AJ Dillon with 15 rushes for 50 yards this week or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, just being this, like, he's going to get the work. Those 2 running backs are going to get the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just tough because AJ Dillon's talented. He could get the goal line touchdown, things like that. But I might have to go with a healthy Josh Jacobs against the Tennessee defense. Although Tennessee, both of these teams in, must win mode at 0-2.
Yeah, honestly, that's crazy that one of these teams is going to be 0-3. Both were playoff teams last year. The Titans actually finishing first in the AFC. Neither team was looking at an 0-2 start. Here we are. I mean, you could kind of see it coming for the Titans potentially, but the Raiders in a tough division, if they drop to 0-3, they're pretty much done. I don't think they can make the playoffs. Real do or die game for both of them. Just from a coaching perspective, Vrabel piecing things together. Josh McDaniels there, trying to get Devontae Adams. I think it's going to be a huge Devontae Adams week. They didn't give him enough work last week. He had 2 completions. One was a touchdown, thank God. But we're going to see 13 targets for Devontae Adams, and it's going to be a quick start, I think, to this game.
So if you use Sleeper, if you're listening, you use Sleeper, you're probably familiar with their new over-under feature where you can sort of bet parlays of player props, even if you're in a non-sports betting state like we are. And the people that set these props are smart, because, like, you can't even bet on Devontae Adams receptions, for example, because they know he's going to get 20 targets. Like, it's going to be absurd. So I would take the Raiders in that game, but Vrabel's a good coach, could definitely pull one out and motivate his team there. Let's take it back real quick to what you were saying before between Damo and Sanders. Where are you leaning? To me, I mean, it's a good matchup for Damo. But Sanders has been a more efficient runner. Just he has limited opportunity because the RB1 on that team is the quarterback.
Yeah, I think David Montgomery has looked pretty good on tape, passes the eye test. He's getting work. He's been efficient. They're against a very vulnerable Houston Texans team, but honestly, the Chicago offense just kind of scares me. I don't think there's something you should put a lot of eggs in your basket from that team. So the over-under is 38.5, extremely low. But for the Eagles and Commanders, 47.5. So an implied 10 additional points, and the Eagles are expected to win by 6. So they're, looking at 26 points, somewhere around there. That makes me feel a lot better about Sanders. And he's getting a few targets, like 3 targets a game. And he's been on the field for about 75% of the snaps. That's huge. We'd like to see that. So I'm really leaning Sanders. I'm kind of shocked that the projections in Sleeper have David Montgomery higher. Maybe it's an implied reception total that they're looking at there for him.
They might just be looking at a game where the two teams are evenly matched, so they're fine using David Montgomery more, and rather than having to pass. Although I think having
They
to
don't
pass is,
pass.
yeah, I think they've thrown like maybe 15 passes total or something like that.
Yeah.
So here's one. You might have this right in front of you, so maybe this won't be a guessing game. But can you guess what Miles Sanders is averaging in rush attempts per game?
I've peeked at it. I would guess like 18.
It's 15, but that's still
Okay.
like that's more solid than it's been in years past. Like I feel like he was one of those 10 to 11 opportunity
Yeah.
players last year. Now he's just getting part of this is because, especially in that Minnesota game, like the Eagles were just burning clock because they had a strong lead and we're just holding on to it. But yeah, it's so I am pro Sanders there, but I wouldn't fault the Damo start at all.
Okay. Yeah, I'm leaning Sanders. I think the ceiling is there for him much more than David Montgomery. So gonna go for ceiling that in that one. Um, how do you feel about Derrick Henry to get back to the Titans game? Like, is he looking old? Like, I don't know if you watched the game last week, but he couldn't get anything going, was getting chopped in the backfield. Do you think this is a rebound game against the Raiders here for him, or are you
I
worried?
th- I think it's a rebound game. I mean, I am a little worried. Like, I don't think here's a early season hot take. I don't think David Montgomery or Derrick Henry is going to be a first round pick next year.
Okay.
I think he'll be taken in the top 3 rounds, but I think we're going to see over the course of the season just a little bit of regression that is concerning on a team that is also probably about to reboot and may have a rookie starting quarterback next year. But yeah, I do think this is a rebound game for him, and I especially think like while he didn't look great last week, I mean, while it was the best defense seemingly in the NFL was just completely smothering them, but he looked pretty good the week prior. Like he didn't look completely washed at least. So I do think that he'll have a solid game here, or probably a low end RB1 game
All right.
against the Raiders defense, which isn't, it's a solid line, but it's nothing to be terrified of.
That's fair. Any other games or players you wanted to get to before I say a couple other ones? Don't want to hog the
Yeah,
mic.
I've got sort of receiver conundrums here, uh, slash running back conundrums. Like so in our dynasty league, right now my starting receiver trio that I'm rolling out is Gibson or not Gibson, but basically he's a receiver. Metcalf, McLaurin, and Garrett Wilson, shooting for the upside for Garrett Wilson. And then in the flex, I have Jeff Wilson and Brees Hall. Not sure how I feel about starting two Jets. And then on the bench, I've got players like Etienne, Dobbins, Jamal Williams, Devontae Smith. Like, do any of those names that I just named that are on the bench seem like I should be starting them instead of, that earlier slate?
No, no, I think you did the right thing at receiver with Garrett Wilson. I think his upside is, the highest in that room for you. And then I think Jeff Wilson is a clear start over Brees Hall for me.
I'm starting both though. It's a double flex. Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay. So
Yeah.
I
So
think that's
my
fine.
like I could start Etienne, Dobbins, or Devontae Smith in the in
Hmm.
my other flex spot, or like Josh Palmer and some of these other names here. But
Is
um
this full PPR?
this is half PPR.
Okay, then I think that's fine to go two running backs there. If it was full PPR, I would be shying away from that if I could, but yeah, I think they're going to get enough work, both of them, Brees Hall and Jeff Wilson is going to be pretty important to the 49ers winning this game. 49ers are looking to keep treading. They're at Denver. That's going to be an interesting one to see if the Broncos are fake or if they can actually do something. They're -1 favorites. So 1 point favorites the 49ers are. And that's going to be an interesting one, kind of a barometer of what those two teams are.
I'm betting 49ers heavy there, but we'll see.
I think
Like
so too.
resurgent Jimmy G 49ers,
Yeah,
they're
I
gonna
think so
crush
too.
these Broncos. What I don't like about this, and this is just irrational, but like I'm starting two players from the Eagles, two players from the Commanders, and two players from the Jets. And I just don't love
Mm.
when, that like one of those players is going to bust because of opportunities being spread elsewhere. But I don't know. I just haven't liked what I've seen from Etienne yet. Like I think he needs to have a little bit more usage or do a little bit more before he's reliable. And then Dobbins' first week back is pretty scary. But Devontae Smith, then I'm starting 3 Eagles. So yeah, it's a tough one, but I guess I'll just rock with my initial instincts here.
Yeah, I wouldn't shake it up too much. I think you're on the right track. And having players on the same team is not enough reason to start Etienne yet. I think I want to wait as well.
All right, what else you got on your mind here?
Let's talk about the highest point total of the week, 54.5 for the Bills at the Miami Dolphins. This is going to be a fun
Right.
one. And the 1 o'clock
So
slate.
yeah, I
Yeah.
have a fun. I'm very excited for this. Probably the most, besides the Eagles game, I'm most excited for.
Yeah.
Um, and I went like all week. I was planning on starting Trevor Lawrence because I wasn't gonna roll out Tua against this Bills defense. But both starting safeties, two core starting
Hmm.
safeties, and Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are out for this Bills defense, as well as I believe Jordan Phillips, one of their starting defensive tackles. So I think I'm going to put the faith in Tua here and just let
Mm.
this Dolphins trade ride. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that's fine. I have no problem starting Tua over Trevor Lawrence if you believe that that's a good one. I think it's very close. I think you're just shooting for the moon here. Tua showed he has a ceiling with those weapons they have, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And yeah, the Buffalo secondary is thin this week. The real dominant force for their defense, though, that's going to be a problem is that D line. It's been trouble for the Rams and for the Titans last week. So I mean, that's going to be the real factor if Tua can get the ball out quick, which he has done.
If Tua
Uh,
can just get like hit Waddle on those
mhm,
blitz, those blitz out routes and stuff like that, like the this has been the narrative all week is that because of the speed of Waddle and Hill, they can just get downfield faster to like what would be like a check down for a typical quarterback is now an intermediate pass, but it's the
mhm.
same like speed as like a 3-step drop would be and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping happens. It's just this is just a yard. Like he put up 14 points in week 1 as a quarterback. So that if that's his floor, that's not great, but that's better. Like I was rocking Trey Lance these past 2 weeks, so
Mhm.
that's better than that. The question is, there are obviously, I think, smarter streaming options. Like Carson Wentz is out there, and Marcus Mariota is out there, like things like that. But I think, like you said, you just got to ride with the ceiling of Tua and hope this point total is hit, if not exceeded.
Yeah. I think it's very exciting to go with Tua here, see what happens week 3. Dolphins looking, I mean, Dolphins and the Bills, same division, both looking hot through 2 weeks. This is going to be an explosive one. They're really going to test each other. Yeah, go with that, dude. I like it.
All right. Did you have a query from this game?
Um, Not personally. I mean, I have Chase Edmonds in Dynasty. I'm not going to start him over Cordell Patterson. That would be the decision I have to make there. Or I guess I could start him over AJ Dillon as well, or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, does it seem like I'm doing the right thing by starting Clyde, AJ Dillon, and Cordell Patterson over Chase Edmonds? I don't think he's going to get a ton of work in this
Yeah.
game. Yeah,
That feels like this doesn't feel like a good Chase Edmonds game.
I would agree. That's really the only thing. Obviously, I'm starting Tyreek Hill in the 2 leagues I have him in, and then unfortunately, I don't have any Bills. I don't think this year. I don't know how that happened. What a shame.
Yeah. Oh, I'm rolling out Gabe Davis with confidence, despite the like he wanted to play last week. He's good. I think he's going to be fine this week.
Yeah.
Um, what are you doing with James Conner? I have James Conner on the bench right now in favor of AJ Dillon, but I don't know if that's a move I should be making. It's just James Conner going up against another tough defense in that Rams defensive front there. Obviously, Aaron Donald plugging holes up, but coming off an ankle injury and still
Yeah.
questionable. Yeah.
Yeah, he was questionable all through practice this week. I think he was limited, and then did not participate on Friday, something like that. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but yeah, that scares me, and it's not a good matchup. I mean, if they get behind early, he's not going to get much work. He might get some, maybe he'll get 5 targets if he's healthy enough for the whole game. I
Oh, I
don't
do have
think
Cordarrelle Patterson going up against the Seahawks. Like I always forget about his old ass.
I would probably go Cordell Patterson just because they're using him a lot, but they're using him a bit less than they did last season. So I don't know. That's a low point game. The Seahawks are vulnerable. The Falcons will need him to be competitive in this game. But I don't know. They all have shaky floors. You can make a case for all of them to have a shaky floor this week, AJ Dillon included. But
I
I don't
think,
know.
all right, the sleeper is saying that Seahawks have surrendered the seventh most yards to running backs over, I love this season, over the first 2 weeks of this season. Um, I forgot all about Patterson. I don't know. This Dylan matchup scares me, but
It does.
yeah, maybe I should be rocking Patterson here. Patterson has a much higher projected point total.
Yeah, I think he's guaranteed as many touches as what's his face would, James Conner would. So, and more of his work could probably be through the passing game. James Conner could be on a snap count. Just a lot of things not going James Conner's way this week. I would want to wait if I could, and Cordero Patterson gives me enough of a buffer that I'm comfortable with that personally.
All right, we're getting frisky with it. We're starting Cordero Patterson. Now, here's one for you.
Yeah.
Would you start Gabe Davis, sit Brandon Cooks, and then flex AJ Dillon?
Sit Brandon Cooks for AJ Dillon.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
That's a tough one. I don't think I would. One. I think I would play Brandon Cooks, but it's really just if AJ Dillon falls into the end zone this week, then he's going to hit probably 10 to 15 point range. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't, it's a low floor,
5 to 7 point range. Yeah.
And I think Brandon Cooks has the higher ceiling this week. So,
all right, send AJ Dillon across the board. Hopefully that doesn't go too poorly for me.
I take no credit if it does.
I mean, maybe I'll swap him out. Josh Jacobs. Well, that'll be a game time decision. We've got plenty of time to
tinker
to think about that. Yeah. All right. Anything else on your mind as we enter? Dane, can you give me an under that you really like?
Oh, an under. Honestly, the Patriots Ravens, maybe. I just think the Patriots might not get anything going. It could be like 27-7 at the most, and that would be 44 points. 31. Like I could just see that hitting under.
Any player prop unders that you placed or that you're into?
I have not placed any player props this week. I went 0 for 3 on Thursday Night Football, so I'm gonna take a rain check on this one. But I haven't actually looked at the lines, but I don't think the Patriots are going to do that well. So maybe you just take the unders on those guys.
yeah. Although Jacoby Myers apparently out, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I guess it's Devontae Parker's time to shine. I'm just kind of assuming Devontae Parker's still healthy. He could be not playing, and I would have no idea.
Yeah, I like, as far as spreads, I like the Baltimore Ravens to cover 2.5, even though they're in New England. I like the Chiefs to cover 4.5, even though they're in Indianapolis.
Wait, that spread is only 4.5?
Right.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like free money.
That does seem like free money. I mean, the Colts have been terrible.
Yeah.
And their defense has been terrible.
Yes. Doesn't it seem crazy that that's the
4.5? I guess this is like the coach line here. Like everyone believes in Frank Reich, and they're like, oh, Frank Reich's not losing 3 games in a row, or I guess they tied that first one, which is somehow more embarrassing. But yeah, that'll be can't bet those lines here in Florida, but that would be one that I would hammer were I in a legal betting state.
Agreed. And then I do also like the spread. You mentioned 49ers, 1-point favorites to beat the Broncos in Denver. That seems like a good bet as well.
Any potential upsets you see happening this week? I'm looking off. I feel like Detroit could upset Minnesota. I feel like that's one.
I think that's one I'm looking at as well. I mean, Detroit looks frisky. Minnesota showed that they can have a down game, albeit against a good team, but we saw that last week. I don't think the Colts have a chance against the Chiefs. Honestly, I think the Dolphins could really upset the Bills. As crazy as that sounds, I just think it's going to be a wild game. And if one turnover swings away or touchdown or fumble 6, something could be the way that they get into it. I think it's just going to be fun. I just want to see chaos. I want to see magic happen. I want to see, 500 passing yards from each of them. Let's go.
Yeah, I would love that. I'd be a big fan of that. In a similar vein, I feel like the Jags could upset the Chargers.
Yeah, Justin Herbert playing through that rib cartilage fracture is scary. Apparently he's going to warm up. I mean, are they a 1:00 game or a 4:00 game?
They're a 4 o'clock game.
Okay, yeah. Apparently, he's going to warm up, see how he feels. If he needs a shot to the rib cage, which they're using the same doctor that punctured. I can't
uh,
even.
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor's
Yeah.
lung. That is terrifying.
I can't believe he's this. Why didn't they fire that guy?
I don't know. They
Yeah.
trust him. Maybe he's got dirt on somebody. I don't know.
Or it was a job the whole time.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if Herbert does not play, then absolutely the Jaguars have a chance to take him down. If Herbert plays, I don't think so, but he could be coming out for a snap or two if he's in pain, or maybe even a quarter or two.
Did you know that the Jags defense is like number 3 in DVOA?
That seems fraudulent.
Who have they played again? They
That's a good
the
question.
Commanders and the Colts. So
yeah, they did, and they beat the Colts.
Yeah,
they looked good against the Colts.
Yeah, it's probably a little overweighted by shutting out the Colts, but
I think so.
Maybe they'll give Justin Herbert, if he's sore, a little trouble. I don't know. I'm not saying it's likely to happen, but that's there's a lot of even matchups this week.
Yeah, Falcons Seahawks is even, Green Bay Packers Bucks is even,
Jets,
Niners
Bengals.
Broncos, Jets Bengals, Cowboys Giants. Oh, Jets Bengals, you tricked me. I just repeated what you said.
Wow, this guy thinks the Jets and the Bengals are things here.
I don't think
hater.
I think we're going to see the Bengals rebound in a big way this week, but hopefully the Jets can keep it competitive, keep the Bengals throwing the ball. I would like to see Joe Burrow not take 7 sacks. That would be nice.
That would be solid. How do you invest so much money in an offensive line and then have it get worse? Doesn't make any sense.
Poor coaching, I think, is the answer there.
Yeah.
Thus far.
That checks out. All right. As we wrap up the show, do you want to speak on your Noah Brown slander?
Oh, you picked him up in, or was it a dynasty league or a redraft league? You picked him up.
Dynasty league.
Oh, well, that's fine. I was just being funny, I don't guess.
No, I put him on the trade block, and you reacted as if there's no demand for the number 1 receiver on the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, not with Cooper Rush. There's not. I mean, it's just like a spot start at best for a week or two. Michael Gallup's coming back. He put up 8 more points
with Cooper Rush than he did.
Okay,
Prescott.
What a weighty argument
There's
to be tossing around
there. Cooper Rush has been playing with Noah Brown for this whole off season. CD who? It's all about Mr. Noah Brown here. I mean, he's the overall wide receiver, 20.
Wow, through 2 weeks.
Through 2 weeks, yeah.
Wow.
On the field for 88% of the snaps, 14 targets through 2 weeks, a touchdown. I mean, this Noah Brown, he went to Ohio State. These Ohio State receivers, man, they're just they run the league.
As much as I'll concede is that he did not look bad, and they will need him to be a part of that offense. I don't care though, not for dynasty. I mean, what are you going to get 2 weeks out of this guy? Michael Gallup's coming back. Dak Prescott is coming back. They're not going to need him nearly as much, but he could factor into the offense. I mean, Dalton Schultz is coming. Like, once they get their starting offense back, he's just gone to wide receiver 4 irrelevancy again.
I think he has the talent to be the starting offense.
Okay, well, that's where you're just delusional.
It's Noah Brown season. I mean, as Grant says, with the Schultz injury, his involvement should continue past Gallup's return. I didn't think the Schultz's injury was that bad, but
it's not. It's like 2-ish weeks timeline. Like, he might play next week kind of thing.
Well, Noah Brown, make the most of this opportunity. I would love to get like a 3rd round pick for you. That would be really nice.
I think if you could get a 4th, that would be stellar.
Well, we'll see how it all pans out. Anything else? Any closing thoughts here?
Nope. Yeah, I would like to see the Patriots upset the Ravens. Not going to put money on that though.
Yeah, I would like to see the Birds sort of put Carson Wentz into a shell. I would love to see maybe like Carson Wentz gets benched for Sam Howell or something somehow because he's playing so poorly. Just his psyche crumbles in the face of his former team. That's what I'm rooting for. But knowing the Eagles, this is the kind of game that they love to lose. So we'll see how it pans out. Enjoy your Sunday. And thanks for listening.
Carson Wentz 2 turnovers, calling it.
All right. Love to hear it.